What's up, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast. I am your host today, Jordan Comstock. With me, a dear friend and amazing person in the dental industry, Dr. Roy Shelburne. Roy, what is up, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. If life were any better, I guess it would be illegal again.
Fantastic. Yeah. Let's let's actually get right into it because you have an interesting story, an interesting and difficult story that you've gone through. But I've known Roy for a long time. We met probably through ADMC, right, Roy? I
I
believe.
think so. A few
Um,
millennia ago.
yeah, so like right when I was starting Boom Cloud, I think I went to one of the first ADMC events. It was in Hawaii, which is my
Yeah,
favorite place in the whole world, and I think that's where I met you.
yeah.
Did you go to the Hawaii one? I think it
That
was.
was a great meeting. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
had a
yeah.
great
You're there.
time there. Yeah,
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so it was. I think it was in Hawaii, which is the perfect place to hang out and meet somebody.
this is true.
Yes.
This is
So,
true.
I was on Roy's website this morning, and I read a piece of his website that I want to kind of just set this up so people can know what Roy's gone through. So it goes like this: some dentists may fear litigation, but few worry about going to prison. On October 24th, 2003, the FBI broke down the back door of Roy's office and confiscated all of his business and dental records. Over the course of the next 3 years, every aspect of his life was subject to the closest scrutiny. He was indicted in October of 2006 and March of 2008. Roy was found guilty of healthcare fraud, racketeering, and money laundering, and spent 19 months incarcerated in federal prison at the federal prison camp in Manchester, Kentucky, before his release in 2010. Roy, welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here to educate our practices. Like I said, I've known you for a long time, and you're such a wonderful person and
Well,
so
thank you.
fun to hang out with and
I
talk to.
appreciate that.
So let's get into it, Roy. I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll go deeper into your story, but let's walk through it.
Yeah, I guess the listeners are kind of scratching their head and go, I don't think I've ever heard a CV quite like that before.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, my passion is to be the last dental professional who goes to prison for things they didn't know or understand. So,
Yes, absolutely.
I was a big CE guy who still live in the same place, western part of Virginia, as far west as you can go and still be in the state. And on October 24th, 2003, I'd flown from Virginia to San Francisco, California to the American Dental Association meeting. And it was 2 years after 9/11. Rudolph Giuliani was the keynote speaker. Of course, he was mayor of New York when the Twin Towers
Sure.
came down. He was speaking on leadership, and I was so into what he was saying that when my phone began to vibrate in my pocket, I didn't notice it, but the gentleman next to me did. He elbowed me. He said, I think your phone is vibrating. So I pulled the phone out of my pocket, and it was my wife who was calling. She wasn't home. She was visiting my daughter at Virginia Tech at the time. So she knew I was at this meeting and would not normally have interrupted. So I thought it was a mistake. So I folded my phone back up, I put it in my pocket, and I waited for Giuliani to finish. And as everybody filed out of that large auditorium in San Francisco, I opened my phone, I called my wife, it connected, and there was silence on the other end, which is unusual for my wife. She's usually started her sentence before the phone connects. She starts early and is late. But there was silence. I said, Debbie, are you there? And finally, she said, Roy, I am. Are you sitting down? Have you ever had a phone call like that when
That
you
is not a good start. Yeah.
No, not a good start. I knew what was coming next was not going to be good. I said, do I need to be sitting down? She said, yes, Roy, you do. I said, what's up? She said, James called, who was our custodian, took care of the office. Um, he said, James called. She said, James called to let me know the FBI has come to your office. They've battered down your back door and they're taking all your records. I said, are you sure? She said, yeah, he sent pictures. His gut punch, obviously. And
Yeah.
I tried to reassure that must be a mistake. Something's going on that they should not be. So never really believing that that was the case, but I tried to make her feel better, hung up the phone, and I was sitting in this now partially empty ballroom in San Francisco trying to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I thought, well, I'll call my office. It was Friday. No team was there. I didn't expect anybody to answer, but four rings and somebody picked up. Hello. I said, hello, who is this? The voice said, who's this? I said, I'm Dr. Shelburne, the person who owns that office and the phone you're talking on. Can you tell me what this is about? The individual introduced himself as an FBI agent and explained that I was a target of healthcare fraud investigation, that he had executed a search warrant and they were gathering evidence to determine whether or
Wow.
not they were going to move forward. And I asked him, I said, what is this about? He said, Doctor, you know what this is about. I said, I'm sorry, I have no
Oh
idea.
no.
Do I need to be there? And he said, no. Do I need an attorney? He said, I can't advise you. Hung up the phone, went back to the hotel. Luckily, there was a seat open on the flights back home. Packed up my stuff, went to the airport, got home at about 10:30, 11 o'clock that night, and drove past my office surrounded by crime scene tape and
Jeez.
multiple FBI vehicles. This search and seizure just happened to occur the day before our county's fall festival. There were booths set up on the sidewalks. There were parades through town.
Oh,
And guess what the topic of conversation was? It was
that.
us, yes.
Yeah.
Um, Largest town in the county, very rural, very poor. Um, Population of the town is 1,800. Population of the county is about 20,000 at the time. So very small
Wow.
rural
Yeah.
area. Everybody knew everybody else. So everybody knew what was going on. Um, we were under investigation for the next 3 years. Everything in my life was overturned. They had more information about me than I had about myself. At one point, teams of officers.
Jeez.
I have three kids that were in universities at the time. Three teams of officers on the same day at the same time went to the bursar's office, got my children's schedules, enlisted help from campus police, who took them to the classroom my children were in. They interrupted the classroom. They flashed their FBI insignia and said, we need to interview these students. Pull my kids out of their
Jeez.
classrooms and interviewed them individually for about an hour and a half to 2 hours each. As a parent, what do you
How
think?
old were, yeah, that's,
They
how old were your
were
kids?
they were 20, 20, 20, 19, and 17 at the time.
Got it.
So
Wow.
yeah, there was no stone unturned. Was indicted 3 years and 3 days after the search and seizure. I was working, came back home. It was Thursday, which was our early day. We started at about 6 in the morning and got done about 2:33 in the afternoon. Had gone home. There was a knock at my door at about, it was about 4:30, and the officer that I spoke to when I called home from California during the ADA meeting was at my door, and he said, Dr. Shelburne, I'm here to arrest you. Escorted me into the kitchen. I had handcuffs on. I had a chain around my waist attached to the handcuffs so I couldn't raise or lower my hands any further than maybe 2 inches. Had leg
Wow.
irons on. Was being read my rights. The phone began to ring. My wife was on my right shoulder with her right hand on my shoulder, on my left shoulder, right hand on my shoulder. The phone began to ring. She turned to answer it, and the officer stopped her and said, Dr. Shelburne, we can't, or Debbie, we can't let anything interrupt this proceeding. Please do not answer the telephone. So she didn't. She turned back around, put her hand back on my shoulder. And it was my daughter who was calling. We could hear the answering machine pick up and her message, which was through her tears, Mom, Dad, they're here. They're taking my car. I don't need my car. What's going on at home? Are you guys okay? Because I was charged with racketeering and money laundering, it allowed the government to confiscate everything I own. So that officer came with seven other officers. So there were eight officers
Wow.
altogether to arrest me. They came with three flatbed car haulers. They pulled the vehicles out of the garage, put them on the flatbeds, and took them away. They took possession of
Oh,
all our bank accounts and all our assets at that point. Try to hire an attorney and expert witnesses and prepare for a trial with nothing.
yeah.
Kind
How
of
do you,
tough.
yeah.
The
Wow.
trial started in February of 2008. It was 9 days. The government brought 118 instances that could be construed as healthcare fraud, and I only need to be found guilty of one of the 118.
Oh my goodness.
So, and I was charged with racketeering and money laundering as well. So they threw the book at me. Um, Trial lasted for 9 days, as I said. The first 3 days were about our lifestyle and the things that we had, the cars that we drove, the vacations we went on, making the jury believe that I committed healthcare fraud to fund my lavish lifestyle.
Sure. Jeez.
So, we prepared for the allegations. We didn't prepare for the evidence they brought that made us look like rich abusers of the system. Was found guilty on all charges. The jury finds guilt or innocence. They are never made aware of the amount. The amount that I got that I wasn't entitled to, and did we make mistakes that we did get money that weren't entitled to? It was a Medicaid issue, and over the 6 years they did the investigation, we were paid $3.5 million. And at this point, typically, if I have an audience I'm lecturing to, I'll ask them, "What do you think the government determined that I got that I wasn't entitled to the 3.5 million?" And we have guesses all over the board, but the amount that they were able to establish I received that I wasn't entitled to of the $3.5 million was $17,899.57, which is 0.01% of the amount that
Of
we
the amount, yeah.
collected. Yeah. And I thought that was a pretty decent error percentage, but the government did not. So I went to prison for funding my lavish lifestyle over the course
Un,
of
un,
6 years with $17,899 and
oh
fifty
my
seven
goodness.
cents. So, like I said, one of
Wow.
the things that I didn't understand was the definition of intent to defraud. I knew it meant if you intentionally submitted claims for patients you never saw for services you never did, that's
Sure.
intent to defraud. But it's much broader from a legal standpoint, which includes blind disregard, which means if you continue to make similar errors without having systems to identify and correct those errors, then that's intent to defraud. And did we make mistakes? We did.
Sure.
Should it have been returned? Yes. My point always was if I got anything that I wasn't entitled to, happily, I would be happy to return it with any
Sure.
interest or penalties added to it. Never given that option. The best option I ever got to settle before going to trial was 3 years in prison and a restitution of $300,000. That was the best offer
Wow.
I ever had. So um, that's my story, and I'm sticking to
For
it.
the 17,899.
For $17,899.57. Yeah.
Man, that number seems to get old to say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Like I said, that.
Jeez.
And typically I ask, so I got $17,000 I wasn't entitled to, and how many of you pay taxes? And I hope everybody raise their hand, because if you
Yeah.
don't raise your hand and pay your taxes, you're going the same place I did.
Yeah.
But how much do you believe that the government and you as a taxpayer paid to investigate, to prosecute, and to incarcerate me?
Yeah.
And conservative estimate is $1.3 million to regain $17,899.57.
Yeah, it sounds like an inefficient government. That's not surprising to me whatsoever,
Yes,
right? Because like
scarily, that's true. That's true.
yeah, so I like this is a crazy story for $17,809.53. Did I get the cents right, Roy?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Um,
So my life since then, I've become an American Dental Association subject matter expert on documentation, billing, and coding, an
yes.
insurance billing expert. I'm passionate about being the last dental professional who goes to prison for things they didn't know or understand. So to be able to protect yourself, do you need to have systems to identify and correct errors? Yes. Do you need to be perfect? No, nobody's going to be perfect, but
Yeah.
implementing those systems will help take that off the table. And a lot of people ask me about insurance. My position is it's a necessary evil, I suppose. Are
Yeah.
there ways to be able to navigate our world today in dentistry and be little or no interaction with an insurance plan? Yes, that's possible as well, but the choice is yours. I can't say this is what everybody should do, because you can't
Yeah.
say that.
Everyone's different. Everyone has different goals and they're in different markets and
Absolutely.
all that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about that. Well, one thing I've been thinking about, before you came on today, I'm like, all right, so you go through that because I knew the number already. We've talked before. And I'm like, that's a lot to be thinking on for, was it, you were in 3 years? Was that the, or
19 months in federal prison,
19
2
months?
months and a half halfway house. I was actually sentenced to 24 months. And to be honest with you, um, because I was found guilty of not only healthcare fraud, but racketeering and money laundering, going into sentencing, the sentencing guidelines establish the maximum and minimum amount the judge can sentence you to.
Mm-hmm.
And going into sentencing, the sentencing pre-sentencing report established that the minimum amount of time I would spend in prison was 17 years, which is probably a life sentence for me. I'm not a young man,
Yeah.
but 6 days before I was to be sentenced, the Supreme Court defined a single word in the money laundering statute, and there was one count of healthcare fraud, one count of racketeering, and 5 counts of money laundering. So the biggest weight in the sentencing piece came from the money laundering convictions. And
Sure.
the Supreme Court defined a word in the money laundering statute in a way that my attorney read their definition and said, I think the way they define this word, it no longer can be applied in your case. So he wrote a motion to the judge prior to sentencing, asking him to set aside the money laundering charges based on the Supreme Court decision that happened 6 days before I was to be sentenced.
Wow.
And going into sentencing, the best I could ask for was the 27 years. It went up to 29 years for the maximum. So the range was 17 to 29. So I was thinking the best I can do is 17 years. And the
Wow.
judge did rule in favor of my attorney's motion to set aside the money laundering statutes, which reduced the sentencing guidelines minimum to 47 months. And he actually did me a favor by deviating. It's very rare that a judge will deviate from the mandatory ranges, but instead of going the minimum 47 months, he actually sentenced me to 24 months. And in his
Wow.
justification for that, he said a verdict in my favor could have been equally possible. And for that reason, that's considered reasonable doubt. And he actually halved it, which made it
Wow.
very much nicer. So from
Yeah.
17 years to 24 months, that's pretty
That's a
significant.
big deal. Yeah. Wow. So, mentally, every time I talk to you, you seem like you have a good attitude today,
Uh,
and you're positive. I've always enjoyed chatting with you.
no, thank you.
When you went through that mentally, that's extremely difficult, and probably extremely rare, I would imagine, for a dentist. I don't know if you know the stats. Maybe it happens more frequently than we're told,
And
but
it's much less than 1%, but it
yeah, sure.
happens nonetheless. Regular insurance companies have taken action as well, but the money needs to make sense for them. They're not going to come at a practitioner for $17,000.
Yeah, this
But
was
if it's
Medicaid, so government had the
right,
funds.
right, they don't care about the money. They want to send a message. They,
Interesting.
yeah, and I'm the messenger, I guess. But I was able to get through that. I'm a man of deep faith, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, I have a wife that is a saint. If we if we live until July of next year, we will have been married 48 years.
Wow, congrats. That's
Yeah,
so cool.
she came to visit every single weekend except one, and the weather was so bad that weekend that even the guards couldn't get in and out. There was so much snow.
Wow.
She didn't come that weekend. So if you want to see a picture of unconditional love, I can show you one of
Right
this
there.
lady.
Yeah.
And divorce is not something we would ever consider, but murder's not out of the question. So if you read my obituary, she's probably put me out of my misery. And
Uh,
and the 3 kids, in spite of what we went through, I have a son that's a dentist, a daughter who's a pediatrician, and a daughter who's a doctor of audiology. So
oh wow.
they have been very successful. I have friends that have remained faithful. I've learned who my frenemies are. That's the friend to your face and enemy behind your back.
Yeah, I'm sure
And
you learned a lot of that.
I have had great support from the whole dental community.
Yeah,
Um,
for
there was,
sure.
yeah, so Dental Town, they came together and put together a fund that helped me get my license back. Because of the conviction, lost my license to practice. I was able to reapply. In Virginia, the minimum period of revocation is 3 years. So I was able to reapply for my license in 2011. Was really shocked they did restore my license. So, and the American Dental
Wow.
Association maintained my membership the whole period, even while I was in prison
Wow.
without a license. They were supportive as well. So the dental community has been supportive. I have a family that loves me, friends that support me, and a faith that sustains me. So I'm here with a smile on my face because I know what's really important. And it's not what's happened, it's who you are and
Yes.
as an individual and what you contribute to your fellow man. And I hope by sharing my story, when you put yourself out there like this, there's always the chance that somebody will say, you got what you deserved and should have been worse. But
Of course, even though they don't know all the details.
well,
It's like,
I may have been that person had I not gone through this process
sure.
myself. So I want to put a face to what can happen, but also, a lot of lecturers say they don't want to scare you. I tell them I'm not that guy. I want to terrify you, but
Yeah.
but I also want to give you the tools necessary to protect yourself. So you only need to be afraid if you choose not to implement what you need to implement to support and defend yourself in your practice. So, like I said, that's my goal. That's my hope to be able to share the story.
Yes.
So,
So yeah, let's get into it. What are some basic 30,000 foot view tips or coaching that you typically tell practices when they call you up for help or
mhm,
when you're speaking at a conference? Like
mhm.
what do you typically talk about?
Well, documentation is the foundation of both protection and reimbursement.
Yeah.
When I'm lecturing, I'll ask, you know, people in the audience, if you're a dentist, raise your hand. Hi, dentist, raise your hand. If you are a business person, raise your hand. That individual who is responsible on any level to submit a claim to the insurance company, raise your hand. I said, hang on just a second. Keep your hand up. If you always get the information you need from your doctor in that clinical record to be able to send a clean claim to the insurance company, keep your hand up if that's the case. You always get that. And less than 5% keep their hand up. If doctors are
Wow.
listening, the thing you can do to increase your reimbursement, get paid for what you deserve, is to give that person who submits the claim to the insurance all the ammunition they need to get that claim paid. Number one, it will get you paid. Number two, it will protect and defend you in the event that there is a malpractice claim, in the event that there is a complaint to the Board of Dentistry. That is going to protect and defend you if you are careful to cross your T's, dot your I's, and keep all that information there in that clinical record so that anybody who reads it, it's a story from beginning to end. Anybody who sees it knows what you did, why you did it, who did it, the whole who, what, when, why, how. If it's there, that is going to defend you in the event that there's a complaint to the board. And if there is a malpractice action against you, that's going to protect you as well. Attorneys don't like complicated, difficult cases. And if they
Yeah.
ask for a copy of the clinical record and they get a clinical record that substantiates what you did, supports what you did, it's very unlikely that that action will move forward because that is a tough case to make. They don't want
Yeah.
to have to fight a tough case.
Yeah.
So that's going to get you paid. It's going to protect and defend you. And it will give, especially in today's world where there are multiple doctors in practices seeing the same patient, it gives them the information they need to hit the ground running rather than have to drop back and ask questions and figure out what was done and why it was done. So that's going to speed the process as well. So it's going to streamline the whole system that you have. And number two, beside the documentation, you need to have an audit program in your practice
Mm.
where from time to time you pull a random, maybe 20 charts, and you do an internal audit. And in that audit, you make sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and that you record that action that you took to identify errors, to correct them, and to implement systems in that documentation process where you don't drop the ball moving forward. For example, you figure, okay, our health histories are not being updated appropriately. This health history in this clinic or this clinical issue with this patient was not updated. What do we do to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future? So it's part of the improvement process that in medicine, our doctor brothers and sisters, that's part of the process because of joint accreditation. The system is very stringent in medicine, not so much in dental. So we need to be careful about auditing periodically. And the more errors you find, the more frequent you need to do those audits. If you go through the audit system and you've worked through so that you're hitting all your expectations, you don't have to do that as frequently, but you need to put that in place and you need to document what you did, when you did it, who was part of the process, what you discovered, and what you did to improve that process moving forward so you don't continue to make the same mistakes. That takes blind disregard off the table. So
Yeah, the
those
audit
are,
system.
yeah. And thirdly, know what you're doing. If an insurance company requires 6 different things to be able to approve a crown or endo or whatever that is, know what those 6 things are and always give them that information. It's a whole lot easier to work a little bit harder to send a clean claim than it is to try to clean it up once it's been submitted, denied,
Sure.
or they've requested additional information. Give them clean information to begin with, and it will greatly increase your reimbursement. It'll keep you out of trouble, and it will give you so much time back that you have to use to be able to go through that claim again and figure out why it was denied, what you need to give them. And as an aside, insurance companies typically, if it's borderline, whether or not it should be approved or disproved, denied the claim, they will always deny it because
Yeah.
in 75% of the cases, a denied claim is never followed up on by the
The
number of
office.
offices in large. They don't.
So
They
they
don't
know the
have time to do
stats. Yeah.
that.
So
So
like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, I don't have time to do this. So it's in that drawer that who knows how many claim deep it is where the insurance company has denied it and needs to be followed up on. Clean that up, fix it up
Yeah.
so that you send that claim in clean to begin with and not have to clean up the mess afterward.
Did you say 75% of the time practices aren't following up with? Wow.
I go to NADP, the National Association of Dental Plans, and the CD, the American Association of DC Dental Consultants. Those are not the consultants that go in your office and help you clean up what you're doing. Those are the consultants that work for the insurance company and determine whether or not they're going to approve or deny that claim. They have meetings too, by the way. Those
Yeah,
are
of course they
interesting.
do.
Those are
Industry.
interesting to go to, and you learn a lot of information. And at lunch, you ask that question. If you have a claim that is borderline, whether or not it should be accepted and paid or whether it should be denied, what do you do with it? And I'll say we deny them and I ask how many of those, and the statistics show that 75% of the claims that are denied or even request additional information are never acted upon.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's insane. Well, here's a stat that I read the other day on the industry. It's from the ADA.
Mhm.
It's kind of a concerning stat, like the one that you just reported.
Terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah. So ADA says that the current state of the industry, we're kind of like in a stagflation type of situation where revenue growth over the last 5 years is 1.4% in the dental space. And expenses have outpaced that by like almost 4.9%. So roughly 3.5 times more than the revenue growth.
Yes.
How I read that, when I read that type of stat, I'm like, okay, it seems like the low reimbursements and the insurance issues that, dentistry is facing is finally catching up and not keeping at pace with where inflation's at and the current state of the economy, right? What are you
Yes.
like? That's how I interpret it. How do you interpret that
No,
piece
that's
of data?
absolutely true.
Yeah,
There are all kinds of issues and statistics, but the fee increases, if they occur, they certainly don't occur often enough to keep up with inflation. And
sure.
there again, will our providers of our supplies, are they going to take pity on us and say, oh, you're in all these different plans and I know you don't get reimbursed very much, so we're going to give you a break? Does that happen? No, it doesn't.
No.
It costs the same amount to see a patient who is in the most abusive plans than as they do with that fee for service patient who pays out of pocket. So,
Yeah,
and is it going to get any better? No. And our world
unfortunately.
is so funky. One of the strange statistics, like ask questions like, why has our insurance annual maximum increased? Never. Of the
Still
people,
1,500 roughly.
yeah, $1,500, 2,000. It's the same
Yeah, that same
as it
range, yeah.
was in 1976 when it was implemented. In 1976, $1,500 would rehab a mouth.
Yeah.
Now it
Jeez.
won't even do a root canal. So, yeah,
Jeez.
as far as has it kept up with inflation, no. But the reason why that hasn't increased is of the individuals in the United States with dental insurance, what percentage actually use their annual maximum?
I mean, I would imagine those I would imagine it's kind of low.
7%.
7%. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So we have so many people that are covered with dental insurance that never use it at all.
That's actually a really interesting stat.
Hmm.
Because when I look at, as you know, we help practices with their patient membership plan, so a cash pay option. Because my thoughts about insurance aren't the positive thoughts about insurance.
I,
We'll say that.
I,
I would
I
imagine.
would, I would venture as far as people who work in dentistry, their perception of dental insurance is universally
Yeah.
negative.
Yeah, I've never met anyone that's like, I really like
I
this
love
PPO
it.
plan.
I love it.
As long as yeah, I'm sure you've seen that as long as you've been in dentistry too. So
No.
when I looked at a group of our practices, um, and we found we looked at three patient types is kind of how I classify it in the office. We look at the cash patients, we look at the PPO patients, and we look at the membership patients in my world.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting because uh, the cash patients, when we're talking about case acceptance now, because you just told me that 7% don't uh,
Only 7%.
only 7% use the $1,500 or $2,000,
Yeah.
which is insane. Especially with I know how much dentistry costs today.
Hmm.
Um, the cash patients we found would say yes like 22% of the time. And the cash patients are like, if you ask any doctor in dentistry, cash patients are king, right? And then we looked at the PPO patients and they had a slightly better case acceptance rate. It was like 30-ish percent, maybe a little bit, 32 to be like exact. And then we looked at the membership patients, and it was in the 40th percent,
Hmm.
right? They say yes more. And my interpretation of that data set is okay, well, if somebody's willing to invest into their health, into their dental health care, out of their own pocket and pay a monthly or yearly subscription, they're probably going to take it more serious. And with all the practices that, we work with, and when I interview these practices, their membership patients become their ideal patient profile
Yeah.
eventually,
Yeah.
right? Because they're like, okay, these patients say yes, they're committing, and we don't have to work with all the nuance of reimbursements and all that stuff, which is never fun. Um,
Ultimately, they have skin in the game. I look
yeah,
at membership plans like having a season's pass for a
yeah,
park.
yeah,
You know me. I'm a Disney guy. We have seasons
yeah,
passes and we go all the time
all the time, yeah,
because we have invested. We get discounts when we go. There's
yep,
it's the same thing. And as a consumer, I do that because I have that season pass, that membership. And I
yeah,
think there's a mentality, I'm paying for this. By golly, I'm going to get the major benefit. And by
yeah,
doing that, if I go through this entire treatment plan, I get this amount back, which pays
yeah,
for my membership.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
a mindset shift where I think most patients that are on a PPO plan, maybe their employer's paying for it and they don't really care. It's like it's not first thought,
yeah, it's
maybe.
it's it's invisible. It has
Yeah.
no value because ultimately, when they go to the dentist, they're going to not only use their insurance, but they're going to have to pay out of pocket as well.
Yeah, isn't that silly?
So that's
Like,
that's kind of like okay, not paying me what I'm worth because they have to pay for this insurance plan. And oh, by the way, I'm gonna have to pay out of pocket when I go too. So it's not a benefit, it's a detriment. I still have to pay. And that's the reason why I think people with dental insurance don't utilize it. The
Yeah,
number of people who have had it for when I
that's
was
probably
practicing and when I'm speaking, I ask the same question. Have you ever had a patient who's had their dental insurance for 7 years and they are going to lose it in 4 days and they come in and they want everything done that they didn't have done in that 7 years in the 4 day span? And they laugh and everybody raises their hand. This happens all the time.
yeah.
It's not an incentive to go to the dentist. And you know, the insurance companies say, we're going to send you a lot more patients as a result of your membership here. I don't find that to be the case.
Yeah, every practice you look at, it's the same. It's not the true driver of because the practice still has to pay for marketing and attract the patients. It's not the insurance company purely
Yeah.
doing that for them,
No, they're
which is
like,
which is interesting because when you if you look at it as a marketing expense, which that's how I would look at it if I were operating a dental office today, and the average write-off I think is like I mean, it varies, but when you t look at the average, I think it's like $37,000 a month, some more, some less,
yeah,
obviously. Which is what, 440,000 roughly dollars a year, or if you do the math there, what, 17, $18 million over a career in dentistry,
yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
Which that's a lot of write-offs that if you're doing that too much, or if you're not optimizing like and getting the max reimbursements
Mhm.
or renegotiating or just going out of network or fee for service,
You
that's
know,
a lot of money over the time.
it it is a lot of money, and even more terrifying is not knowing that amount.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot that don't know.
yeah, well, they number one, they don't look, but number two, I see so many offices that when they post
Yeah,
the fee
write-offs
schedule fee rather than their office
or
fee, so they
UCRs.
have no clue how
Yeah,
much they're actually writing off.
that's what I keep hearing.
And
That's
that's terrifying to me. So if your office overhead is 75% and you're writing off 35%, guess what? You are losing 10%
oh my
every
goodness,
time you see one of those patients because they reimburse less than your overhead.
man. Yeah,
And if
that's
you don't have the statistics and the accurate data to be able to determine just how much you're writing off, that's to me terrifying.
so
Terrifying.
data
Go
integrity seems to be an issue still in dental.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, that's
You
insane.
cannot operate an efficient dental practice without having the data and information you need to make informed decisions about number one, your participation, your staffing, your overhead. You can't
Yeah,
do that. You can't, you're driving blind. Why
yeah.
would you do that?
I don't know. So many people do that,
I know. It's
unfortunately. Yeah, I
terrifying.
was shocked talking on with the practice the other day. I'm like, how much are you writing off? They're like, Jordan, we don't know. I'm like, "Ugh. Why? And exactly what you said, because they're putting in the insurance company's fee schedule, which doesn't do them any favor, or doesn't do the zip code of dentists any favor,
No,
because
that
if they need to go and like if they're trying to renegotiate, the insurance company is just going to look at that data and be like,
we're
no,
paying 100% of your fees
we're
right
paying,
now. So why
yeah,
in the world would we need to increase it?
yep, which makes it difficult. And I know here, like I'm in the beautiful state of Utah,
Mhm.
which there's a lot of practices that practice with too many PPOs here is what I've seen in my career. And I'm sure I don't know if you've consulted with anyone here in Utah, but it's kind of a wild place when it comes to PPOs. I mean,
It is, and to be honest with you, at this point, in terms of the plans that are now being marketed to individuals and to businesses, the vast majority are PPOs, like in the
yeah,
90% ish.
yeah. Well,
So
what's the so-called good PPO plan? Was it
that's an oxymoron.
I know. It's I hear it, I kind of laugh, but it was like they're not giving it out anymore. People the dentists that had it are locked in, but they're grandfathered in, but they're not. I'm trying to remember what it's called.
Premier.
Um yeah, Premier.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything like that anymore. That seemed to be more of the like when I've talked to practice, like we're gonna keep that one because that one's okay. That one's better than what the rest. But they're not doing that anymore, I guess.
No, no, they aren't. They grandfathered the individuals in who had it prior to, but they drew the line, and depending on the state, probably 10, 15 years ago, they said, okay, no more Premier.
So you'll see a generation of dentists that, yeah, don't even, they're dealing with like
And
these PPO plans.
the scary part is if that person who comes in to buy the practice, the valuation will be based on the Premier reimbursement. And as soon as that practice is sold to the new dentist, they don't get the Premier reimbursement anymore. They get the PPO reimbursement. So instantly, the income of that practice decreases whatever that percentage
Oh,
is from Premier to PPO. And
so
if you have a new graduate who comes in and sees the numbers, this is a Premier practice, they get reimbursed this amount, they transfer the practice, and then the new dentist is not in Premier.
oh goodness. Does that, I would imagine that creates a valuation issue when it comes to
Yeah,
buying
the
practices,
practice is not worth what it was prior to
which
because the Premier is no longer available.
which is unfortunate for the buyer and for the seller. Like both are, that's a issue for both because it's like the
Well,
buyer can't get,
if the buyer if the buyer is unaware, they're blindsided. But
which
if the buyer is
possibly.
aware, the selling doctor will be asked to reduce the price based on what is going to be the expected income once that change occurs
That's
from Premier to
unfortunate
other. Yeah. So there
because that's
again,
for
the
both.
two-edged sword, yes, absolutely. So
Yeah.
did anybody win? The insurance company, but that was it.
That's another reason why I love membership plans is
Mm,
because they can transfer over to the new doctor and the
okay.
valuation. Like when I consult with practices and say, hey, you got a really healthy membership plan. And there was one practice years ago that they sold and sent me an email because I had coached them to grow a really successful membership plan. I think they had like 800 or 900 patients on it, and it was like generating 30 or $40,000 of monthly recurring revenue for the practice. And he sold it to I think it was an emerging DSO or something, or emerging multi-location. I don't know if it was a DSO. And he called me after it happened, and he's like, "Holy smokes, I'm so grateful I did that because I realized that those membership patients could transfer over to the next buyer, and the valuation from that revenue remained intact, right? He didn't have to discount it like you would if you were a premier practice,
Mhm. Right.
unfortunately. So
Yeah.
no, that's really interesting. Really, really interesting. All right, Roy. So this has been such a fun conversation. I love talking to you. We're kind of geeks about this stuff, isn't it? Aren't we?
I know it's kind of like
It's like
it's kind of like why are you so into dental insurance? It's horrible. And I said, well, I try to make it as easy and fun as possible
yeah,
if you can.
sure.
Like I said, it's it's an evil that exists in dentistry, and if you don't address it, then it's not being addressed.
And it could be miserable for you if it's
It
not.
will.
So it will, yeah, yeah. It's not a maybe, it will be. So for my listeners that are they're hearing your story, what and if they're like, wow, I need help from Roy, what do you recommend they do? Do you have a website? Do
Yeah,
you
I have a website. Just Google Roy Shelburne. Hey, it's my grandson,
Hey, grandson?
a blurry grandson.
A
And
blurry grandson.
come on over and say hello.
What's up, dude?
This treasure chest.
Charge it.
He has a treasure chest.
Oh, a treasure chest.
Yes, he does.
Yeah,
That's really fun.
I want to show you this ring.
What you got there? It's blurry now.
He's got a ring. He got it yesterday at his pirate camp. He went to pirate
Oh,
camp. This
that's pretty cool, dude. How
well,
how old are you?
can you tell him how old you are?
I'm 5.
He is
Oh, you're
5, going on
5.
25.
I have a 6-year-old girl, and I would imagine she would like to
Sister
see
is
what's in.
3.
Your sister's 3?
Yeah.
So fun. We got a special guest on the podcast
We
today.
do. We do.
So funny. So Google Roy Shelburne. It's royshelburne.com.
DroyShelburne.com.
Okay.
My email is ROY underscore Shelburne at hotmail.com.
Awesome. I'll
He's
put
having
those.
a lot of fun too.
Yeah, that's awesome. My girls are here in the office today, Roy. So every when you were
Hello,
talking,
kitty.
they're jumping over my window trying to make me laugh. So we've got
Hello.
the same situation today.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like I'm visiting. We're going to Busch Gardens when?
Today.
Today.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Roy, I'll let you go and hang out with your family. That's so fun. Oh, we got the other one.
We got another one.
So funny. All right. With that said, we hope everyone has an awesome day and reach out to Roy. Awesome story, Roy. Have a good
All
one,
right,
man.
thanks.
We'll see you.
Okay.